Howdy folks, you're watching Deuce. This week is the Witching Week, Halloween week, where all the spooks and specters and ghouls and goblins come out to play. Now, it was either last year or year before, I made an anti-vampire bullet. It's a 45-70 round with a piece of wood, a stake, shoved in there. I got mediocre results at best with that, but this year I have my sights focused on werewolves because they could be a problem. So I have a silver bullet. That's supposed to take out werewolves? Oh, here you go. These are called the Idaho Silver Bullets. These bullets are manufactured by the RMR Bullet Manufacturing Company, and there is no silver in them, unfortunately. So what is it, you ask? It is a cheaper version of their very famous jacketed hollow point, and it's quite a bit cheaper, especially if you buy in bulk. The reason why it's silver is because it's mostly zinc, because copper has become very expensive. If I remember correctly, it's like 90 or 95% zinc and the rest of it is copper. The weight of the bullet is 120 grains, but it's the exact same shape and size of a jacketed hollow point made in copper that weighs 124 grains. The instructions state to load as if it is 124 grain. So that's what I did. I just did 30 of them to check out the speed and the accuracy and see if it shoots well to for me to invest more in this. Now I only have about 25 or 30 rounds to test with and a lot of testing to do. So I'm only going to shoot 3 rounds right now through my Canik Rival to see if it works in that barrel. I've got a target down range about 10 yards, and we're going to see how she shoots. I've had this red dot on and off this pistol already, so I have no idea if I'm sighted in correctly. But here we go. All right. And there we have roughly a 10-yard group. First firings, not bad. Now let's put 3 rounds through a stock Glock 34 with the original Glock rifling and see how that goes. A little bit lower, but looks all right too. And now the same exercise with my threaded barrel, which is aftermarket, and it has normal rifling. We got to make sure that we don't get tumbled bullets here. So I can shoot my suppressor with this as well. Shooting lower in the Glock. Interesting. None of these bullets tumbled, which is awesome, which means we're going to go ahead and test her out with the suppressor. She was pretty quiet though. She was pretty quiet. That was with a 45 can, not a 9mm can, because that's just what I had set up right now. So it could be slightly quieter even. And again, not super loud. Impressive. Now let's test out how fast these bullets are coming out of the barrel. Now I have my chronograph set up. I left my phone at home, so I have a janky camera pointed toward my chronograph. Hopefully that works. If it doesn't work, you guys just have to take my word for it. Now I'm not hitting the target or anything, I'm just going straight into the berm over the chronograph. 1085. Oh, I got a fail to feed too. That's weird. Okay. That could have been the suppressor issue. But yeah, we are looking at mid to high 1,000 feet per second range. And you can see hopefully on my load card there that I do have 1,000 feet per second question mark, which is what I expected. And for comparison's sake, I have a 124 grain cast lead bullet loaded with the same charge of powder and the same overall length. This won't be super comparable because lead slides down the barrel faster and easier than a full metal jacket round. So it should be faster than the 1058 that's on there right now. I don't have any kind of jacketed bullet that is 124 grain. So you get what you get. 1146. I think I need to lube. Yeah, I need to lube my my suppressor because it's having some issues cycling here. But we're just going for. So yeah, the cast lead bullet is quite a bit quicker than the Full Metal Jacket charge, which was expected. There are some very interesting details about this bullet that we're going to go back to the bunker and talk about further on. Before we start that, I want to reassure everyone there, I do not believe in ghouls, goblins, ghosts, or any of the other nonsense out there. I do believe in aliens though, because if you put 100 scientists in the same room and you ask them the questions, hey scientists, are there such thing as ghouls, goblins, ghosts, vampires, werewolves? They're going to say no. That's ridiculous, Deuce. What are you smoking? But if you ask them, what about aliens? You're going to get, well, probably not. So the Idaho Silver Bullet, there are some great things about it. There are some not so great things about it because you can never have the sweet without the sour. First of all, it is cheap. This bag of 500 bullets was very, very inexpensive. Now, I could have gotten a better price had I ordered more, but I did not do that because I'm going to be holding out for a heavier weight 9mm. I'm very much more partial to a 147 grain bullet versus a 124 grain bullet, or in this case, a 120 grain bullet. I'm going to bet their 147 version will be 140. That'll be close enough for my neck of the woods. Number two, it shot great. It shot great in my Canik, which has normal traditional rifling. It shot great in my Glock with the stock polygonal rifling from Glock. It shot great with my aftermarket Glock barrel that's threaded for a suppressor. It shot great through the suppressor. It was even quiet. It also just looks really, really cool. I mean, look at that. Well, there's a close-up right there. Look at that sucker. That sucker just looks awesome. All loaded up, ready to go, all shiny and new. And the last really cool thing about it is the fact that it is a true jacketed hollow point bullet, sold at or below the price per unit sold of a copper-plated bullet. In other words, you don't have to baby it through the reloading process, nor do you have to worry about the type of powder or the powder charge you're putting that bullet on top of. If you load a copper-plated bullet on top of a too powerful of a charge for it, it can strip off the copper plating and leave it in the barrel when you shoot it. So that's a big no-no right there. So you have to mind yourself when you're using copper-plated, but this, you can just go balls to the wall. And the last test we got before we head on back to the bunker is the water test, as in how good of a hollow point is this hollow point. So we got one round, I'm gonna put through the Canik. Did you see that bucket bounce? I mean, wow, that's like 30 or 40 pounds of water. It jumped up 6 inches. You saw me shoot one of these into a bucket of water from maximum expansion. And here's all I could find of that bullet after it went through the bucket of water and into the ground here. Here is the mushroomed main portion of the bullet. So that did expand quite a bit. And we'll see that it retained in the main body of the bullet 70.8 grains out of the 120. Now I got 3 different petals of lead here that came off of that bullet as well. So we'll go ahead and add those to the whole thing. So we got that, and we have all these petals that peeled off and basically became shrapnel in the body or the bucket or whatever you want to call it. And I'm probably missing 1 petal, and that will make up the extra 1.5 grains or whatever. And now we start touching on the bad parts of this Idaho Silver Bullet. Number one is that while it is a hollow point, it did not retain all of its mass into one big slug. It shrapneled out, which is not ideal for a hollow point, but it is a hollow point. So it did expand, just not as well as it could have. Another negative is the fact that it does tarnish. Zinc, it's 90-something% zinc and just a little bit of copper. Copper does not tarnish nearly as easily as zinc does. Zinc tarnishes very, very easily. As an experiment, I put 1 Idaho Silver bullet and 1 copper-plated bullet in a dish of water, and I let it sit for 2 weeks. Now, eventually the water did dry up, but there is the end result. You can see all that crust and corrosion on the Idaho Silver Bullet, and the copper-plated bullet is still good to go. To combat corrosion, the Idaho Silver bullets are coated with a light wax coating. It is so light that it's not going to build up in your firearm. It is not going to build up in your reloading equipment, but it is heavy enough to keep moisture in the atmosphere from tarnishing your bullet. So as long as you don't keep your ammo stored underwater, you should be okay. When I first opened up my package of new bullets, it came with a free bore snake for 9mm. Thought, well, that's cool. And then I've realized, wait, does that mean this could damage or let up or harm my barrel in some way? And it turns out, no, it does not. I've shot many of these bullets now, and the barrel is completely clean, just like I was shooting copper. And if you look up the Mohs hardness scale, zinc is slightly less hard than copper is. So there is no chance that any of this will impact the life of a steel barrel. Another negative is that you can't put a heavy crimp on it. The reason is zinc does not have the rebound properties that copper does. So a copper jacketed bullet, you put a real heavy crimp on that, the copper kind of rebounds back, expands back out where it was, and then tightens up against that case. If you put a heavy crimp on a zinc bullet, the zinc bullet will go down and just stay crimped down, and it'll be loose in the case then, because the case will expand a little bit, the zinc will not. The zinc will stay loose, and you'll have a rattly bullet in that case. Will it fall out? I'm not sure, but it could cause some fail to feeds. A heavy crimp on 9mm should only be used in specialty style situations. If you're shooting regular Glocks and Canics and Rugers and Smith & Wessons, you really don't need it. And the very last negative thing about the Idaho Silver Bullet only pertains to people who are using it for competition. And that is the fact that it does not have a very prominent grease mark when it goes through the target, which a copper bullet does. So what does that mean? Well, in targets in a competition, you have the normal target, and inside there'll be kind of a dotted line where it designates a higher ranked hit. So if you're shooting this target, this would be an alpha and this would be a bravo hit. If you hit right on the edge of that dotted line with a copper bullet, you're going to have a nice grease mark. So with a copper, you'd have a nice grease mark that would clearly show that the bullet did touch the line going into the alpha quadrant, which gives you the points for A and not B. See, I'm exaggerating for the camera, but the zinc leaves a much lighter grease mark. It does leave one, but it's very hard to identify, and it may or may not give you that squeak of an edge into the alpha point system, and it may leave you as a bravo. So what is Deuce's final verdict on the Idaho Silver bullets? Well, I think they are a great, inexpensive alternative to a copper jacketed hollow point bullet. But I won't be buying any more until they offer a heavier weight bullet. Don't get me wrong, I will be loading these up. I will load these up and I'll have them in a separate container, and I'll use them for self-defense and just fun and games around the farm and house. But until they start offering a heavier weight load, which is more my style, I am not going to be buying any more. Please note, I bought this stuff with my own money using my personal email address. So they have no idea who I am. They have no idea I'm making this video review. And while I'm not personally interested in buying any more 120 grain bullets, if that weight does interest you, then that is a fantastic value for a jacketed hollow point. Well guys, that's it for me today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a like. Go ahead and subscribe because that really helps out the channel. And if you have any comments, questions, or show ideas, leave that down in the comments down below. I try to answer as many of those as possible. And as always, you guys have a great day. See ya.